weekend? I think so. I do that.
What?
Did I smoke any this weekend?
Oh my gosh, you haven't?
I think I packed the bowl.
I like it.
Hi, friends. I'm Dirk here. Talking with those people. I'm going to try to devote this live stream to answering typology questions. I must say, I've been very pleased with the questions I've been getting from OOOO, and there was somebody else who was asking me good questions too. And here's the key thing that makes me really happy to get questions and be happy to answer them. If I think somebody is withholding judgment and is testing me to the best of their ability to make sure that I'm actually making sense, but is ready, at least potentially, to accept that maybe I am, then I am thrilled to answer those questions. The kind of questions I hate answering are the ones that when I give a great answer, they just move on to another question that attacks me. It's like, why am I answering questions? There's nothing in it for me. You're not intent on learning anything.
Exactly.
And it's like, if you're asking questions genuinely to test me, then there's a chance you might actually reveal something I need to pick up too. Whereas if you're just asking questions to try to attack me, then you're probably not very good at asking questions, so you're probably not going to actually successfully attack me.
You're right, Katie. I should close the blinds. Thanks for holding my spot.
Hi, Zondi. Hi, Randy Fox.
Hey!
I just found out today, Rachel, I was shocked to learn. You know that Running Fox is Zandy's biological mother?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why they're so similar.
Thanks, Vincent's mom. When I was done with it, I immediately thought, wow, this is a good typing session because it actually was like 2 hours long. I edited it down, but because I felt like I really solved the puzzle there by the end of it. Thing is, it would have been so much more boring if I remembered to ask the SI questions first, in which case it would have been pretty obvious right away. Because I didn't ask any SI questions, I ended up being confused all the way to the very end. I mean, I managed to figure it out even without the SI questions. And I said, okay, you're an ENFJ, even though you seem like an INFJ. And then I realized, wait, I can verify this with the SI questions. And sure enough, bam. And that made me super, super pleased because it set me up with a situation where I could go, okay, well, look. Simple test. You pass it, you win. I mean, like, you're not an ENFJ. You can't pass it, then you are. And he didn't even attempt. Just like, I couldn't even begin to answer any questions about this morning. That was like 4 hours ago. It's like, that's some crazy ENFJ polar SI there.
Thank you, Winston's mom. These were the ones from Steve Madden. One is like pearl. The other one is, like crystals. And, thank you.
Those are the correct ones?
Yeah, these are the correct. Yeah,
I like them a lot better than the other ones.
Right?
The other ones were gaudy.
That's what I think, too. I wouldn't have bought those. It's not my style.
And I want to stress, when I say gaudy, I don't mean like God. I mean overwrought.
Gaudy.
And too much.
Gaudy.
Too much bling for the amount of clip.
Right. It really is too much bling for the amount of clip. Maybe if you have really long hair, I can see it being like, okay, like looking pretty cool. But my hair is short and it would have taken over my hair. So I'm just looking for cute clips to keep my bangs out of my face.
Cloud, you're basically right, except as I think we've all kind of learned over time, Rachel is not as extroverted as we probably all thought she was at first. If you actually think about these live streams and the percentage of the time that she spends talking, and a lot of times during live streams, she'll separate and go over there after a certain period of time.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem to be competing for me for talking space in the same way that, say, Sean and I do, right? Okay, so what's the difference between TE and FE inferior? Inferior meaning fourth. So I would say, well, I mean, you're looking at the difference between a TI DOM and an FI DOM. So the inferior function is going to look a lot like the 8 slot function. So in that regard, there's going to be not a whole shit ton of, let's see. No, there's going to be a shit ton of difference, actually. Well, okay, kind of. So here are some problems with typing patterns that are built into the nature of the thing. One thing is that 5 doesn't demonstrate its backstack. So if I ask an ESTP to recount a bunch of personal anecdotes, no problem. That's SI fifth. If you ask me to do the remote associations test, no problem. NI fifth. Also, if you ask Taylor to do the remote associations test, no problem. NI fourth. If you ask Taylor to do the recounting of SI shit, no problem. SI fifth. So 4 5 is very difficult to test against each other. You have a very different relationship with your 4 and 5, but when you test somebody, you're engaging necessarily the same part of their relationship with the function each time. You're testing your willingness to demonstrate it to the world. And so it's like your 6 slot function will often test reasonably well, but even that can be questionable because, for example, let's say you pay me to type you, and I start asking you pushing out your 6th slot. You're going to feel like I'm making you go to work. It's like when I play a video game, just more increasingly like any video game, but especially something like Minecraft or something like like where you League of Legends, where you have to like get this and then this and then this, and finally you can get this, which allows you to make this, that kind of shit. I find it too much like work. So if I'm pushing out someone's 6 slot function, which is demonstrative but countervalued, they may or may not demonstrate it to me willingly and successfully. It may over demonstrate because they're perfectly capable of demonstrating it because it's demonstrative. Or it may under demonstrate because it feels like work to them. They don't want to do that, and they paid me for this session and they don't want it to be boring. So there's those things. There's elements as well. Like one thing you would, if you were going to argue against my typing about that guy being an ENFJ, you would say he didn't seem to show enough NE for 6 slot demonstrative.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, with my INFJ, I'm not extroverted, but my affect with being a 7, does that mean because I like to party? I really do. I mean, that. That I think makes me more 7.
I see your 7 as manifesting most of all as not wanting to be held, not wanting expectations. We were just saying in the car.
I guess, yeah.
Neither of us want to be expected to do random things.
Yeah, I like to
chores and shit.
Yeah. Oh my god, though. I get on myself for it.
Yeah, you're the other guy, Frederick Allen. I forgot your name, but you were in fact, yes, you are in fact the other guy who was asking questions that I was interested in answering. But what Legends Fall says is the takeaway I hope people take away from that, which is affect is not a reliable method of determining introvert, extrovert. And in general, typing people, So, yeah, it was a really gratifying typing session, even though it's karma, right? I didn't really want to give that guy a free typing session necessarily but I said, whatever, it'll take 15 minutes to talk to him and see what he says. But I told them, okay, we'll be there right at 12 because that way I don't have to go over with my debate client. I'll just be like, okay, sorry, I got a new client here. And then, that makes the transition easy. Instead, he didn't show up at noon. And when I went back to my email, it said, well, where am I supposed to go? And I was like, oh, fuck. All right, fine. Go here and I'll go see you there. And this was like after 15 minutes later where I'd already forgot about it there. But I still did it anyway. And you know what? I'm super glad I did. Because as soon as I got 15 minutes into him, he started just making me scratch my head. What is the criterion by which we determine that MBTI is not hocus pocus suicide?
You want to know the truth? I was looking at his face while you were doing it, and I was like, this guy's totally lying. Like, I'm like, no wonder what. I knew it. I knew he was. But I was like, I don't know what type he is, but I could tell that he was not.
Okay, but let me clarify.
Oh my God, Rachel, I cannot.
Rachel, let me listen to what I have to say before you respond, please. I agree he was attempting to present himself as something.
There was that's what I mean.
Okay, but we want to be careful with our language and note that that's not the same thing as lying. Okay, so
he was like, didn't have a natural authenticity in his affect.
Okay, fine. Great. So what validates it as a model for human personality? All right, so Frederick Allen, first I would point out that there are two different kinds of ways that we validate theories or models. And one of them is something that makes predictions and that you can then validate because it meets those predictions. The other style is to make indisputable observations and find explanations that don't run afoul of any of the indisputable observations, which are two different approaches to theorizing. Okay. So what I would say is MBTI is not what I'm talking about, first of all. MBTI is a specific understanding of Jungian typology that has a lot of things wrong. What I'm talking about is a cognitive function stack. Well, let me walk through it, Frederick Allen, okay? So, if, for example, you talk about the law of thermodynamics, it's predicated on the idea that it is observedly true that you can't have a perpetual motion machine, right? That various laws of thermodynamics are predicated on the idea that you can't get more or less, you can't create new energy or destroy energy. And so these assumptions are predicated on observations. Now, it's true that from those observations, if in fact those observations are universal, then you can predict that if your explanation is right, then it won't violate that universal. Okay? But that's different than, say, the law of relativity, which is not observational, but intuitive and logical. Or, for example, plate tectonics, which is not observational, although it eventually found its empirical observational validation, but is first and foremost an intuitive idea that wasn't even implicitly valid in any sense. It just better fit the total amount of things. Okay, so there's the question of whether or not something's validatable, whether or not it's been validated, and also the means by which you can validate something or invalidate something. Frederick Allen, I did some market research, and what I determined that a surprisingly large percentage of people indicate is missing from their favorite YouTube channels is an additional soundtrack of coughing in the background. So I've gone ahead and put one in there. Figure it'll help set my channel apart.
It does.
Might also have something to do with the fact that Rachel and I are always pulling bong rips, but that's kind of irrelevant. So, okay. Oh yeah, theory of relativity. My bad, Chris M. I stand corrected. It is not the law of relativity; it's the theory of relativity. And the reason we call it the theory of relativity is because, rather than the law of thermodynamics, is because the theory of relativity is only valid within its frame, right? So we have this other frame called quantum mechanics, in which case the theory of relativity is not valid. It is not determinate in any sense. It's not applicable. So
I'll take the bong ripped. This is so serious. I'm gonna take a shower and fucking wash this day off of me.
Yeah, go. Do so.
Okay. Do this.
Okay. I know. You're
Not.
You're in. Tonight's
so
not the best. I got you.
So much.
Okay. You go in, you take a bath, take a shower. If you feel like you're not getting sleepy.
No, I'm definitely. I know I'm gonna conk out. I'm not worried about it at all.
Cool.
Yeah. I just have to wash the day off of me.
I'm sorry it was such a rough day, baby.
Okay.
So I will get along back to it here. I'm a little bit have my attention a little bit split at the moment.
You really wanted to choose COVID, but
Not COVID.
I'm joking.
All right. So how does all this stuff link to the okay, well, I think Rachel's going to go on inside in a second, and you'll be able to have my full attention, okay?
Yeah. I'm out. Later, guys. Enjoy.
Okay. So then the question is, foremost, how would we validate something like cognitive functions? Well, the first thing we'd want to do is establish what we're trying to do and how one normally does the kind of thing we're trying to do. So we're trying to model how agents, go ahead and write it down on that, express being through time in ways that manifest as a single constant identity. And so then if we were going to define personality, we define personality as elements of the self, we'll just say attentional manners, affect, habits, etc. of the self that remain the same, approximately, throughout one's life, barring anomaly. And what I'm saying is, when I say barring anomaly, what I mean is it might be the case that you could point to people with brain injuries, people with mental disease or mental illness, people who have suffered extreme trauma, and unfortunately I'm not using the software kind of live streaming. I just wanted to make notes about a couple things while I was writing it down because the problem is, here's the biggest problem, is that I'm writing down too much. I should just make a bullet point. I will from now on. Sorry, my bad. It's just nice to have these things outlined. I can outline them a million times and it helps me to get more stuck in my head. My SI is pretty bad. Okay, so We define attentional manners as affect, habits, etc. of the self that remain the same approximately throughout one's life bar an anomaly. And so we recognize then that the model is how these agents express being through time in ways that manifest as a single constant identity. In other words, to explain why personalities are what they are. We'd also like to explain the fact that different people are the same. So, like my daughter and MC McPhee are so very similar in their both general affect or general perception of them, but also if you give them a set of tests, they test out the same. So I could see right away that MC McPhee reminded me a shit ton of my daughter, but when I give her cognitive function tests, she scores well on the same ones and poorly on the same ones as my daughter. Okay, so this is not proof of anything, but it's a place to start. Now, it's something we want to explain anyway. Why is it that MC McPhee, even though she's from Scotland, immediately reminds me, Rachel, and anybody who knows my daughter, of Delilah? Is just watching her behave for a little while. Maybe it's just there. I don't know. Well, we want some sort of explanation. We know that the alternative to understanding personality is what we call an attribute approach. The attribute approach says we're talking about map stuff here, namely that we're giving representations, symbolic representations of things about people that represent their personality, namely words, labels, etc. So naturally, it makes sense to test for those attributes. So you got your 5 attributes, except people don't have those attributes. Those attributes are descriptors of habitual ways of being. So they are what ends up happening is a measurement definition problem. Thing is, when you think you're measuring an attribute, you're actually defining it, because people don't have those kind of attributes like conscientiousness, agreeableness, openness, neuroticism, etc. It may be the case that in any given moment, I'm much more agreeable than any given other moment. In any given moment, I may be much more open than in any given other moment. And so those things aren't aspects of the self that actually remain constant over time. Something that actually does remain constant over, which everyone is, that is the standard definition of personality. On the other hand, if we look at things through attentional manners, we want to first do some observational checking. What does observational checking mean? It means, are there different ways of paying attention? Well, I'm telling you right now. Ocean says people have attributes. Well, you know what? It needs to happen. Guys, I realize that not everybody wants to get the full blast TI justification, but INTPs need it, ENTPs need it, ISTPs need it, ESTPs need it to feel satisfied. And ultimately, if I'm going to get the people who don't want the real explanation to agree with me, I'm going to have to get all the people who can understand the real explanation to agree with me first. So even though this might not be the most exciting live stream ever, I'm going to answer all these questions as best I can. I am differentiated because instead of talking about attributes, we're talking about attentional manners. All right, Jeebus, you're not only timed out in real life, you're timed out in fake life too. I'm tired of your nonsense. So, well, I don't know if the Big Five makes that claim explicitly or not, but that's how personality is generally defined. And what makes something somebody's personality is that their identity persists, right? And as I've done many times before, whenever anybody challenges this part of the thing, what I like to do is to show them the video of when I was 17 years old. Here I am, 17 years old, know nothing at all about cognitive functions, nothing at all about personality types. And so there's no possible way that I'm somehow gaming this to seem like an ENTP or anything like that. I had no recollection of this video until it was shared with me some years back. So a few years back or whatever. So there's no possible way that that I could be gaming it the other direction either. This is clearly the same guy. So personality is the question of what comprises the same guy. So sensing, intuition, thinking, etc., are not attributes because they are instead ways of paying attention. When I'm watching a movie, I'm not talking, I'm listening. And what I'm listening for kind of depends on the movie. Let's say I'm watching a movie and one of the characters in the movie has part of their dialogue, tells the hat question to the other character in the story. If you haven't heard the hat question, it's quick, so I'll just tell it. There's a warden in a prison. There are 3 prisoners. The warden has a bag. It has 5 hats. 3 red hats, 2 white hats. Each prisoner puts on a blindfold, pulls a hat randomly from the bag and puts it on their head. They can see the other guy's hats. They can't see their own. And the warden says, if you tell me what hat you're wearing, what color hat you're wearing, then you will be set free. If you tell me wrong, you'll be put to death. If you admit you can't tell me, then you'll go back to your cell and nothing changes. The first guy's blindfold comes off. He looks at person B and C. He says, I can't tell what color my hat is. The second guy's blindfold comes off. He looks at persons A and C. He says, I can't tell what color my hat is. Person C doesn't even need to take his blindfold off. He says, I don't need to take my blindfold off. I can tell you right now what color my hat is and why. And the warden says, yes, you're right, and sets him free. Okay, now, the thing is, let's say in the movie, some character is telling this story. I'm going to be listening carefully to the story to try to solve the problem. So I'm going to be listening specifically for what the words mean. However, let's say it's not something like that in the movie. That's a regular part of a regular movie where, Jody's getting uncomfortable because John's getting drunk at the wedding because he's mad about having learned that before they got together, Jody slept with Mia. That kind of movie, right? I'm not paying that much attention to what the words mean. I'm paying a lot more attention to body language, their emotional states, etc. Okay? Now, let's contrast that with yet another thing. Right now, when I am explaining the answer to this question, I am not paying attention to new questions. I'm not reading new questions. I'm not receiving new information from people. I'm not getting new information from people. I'm not asking questions. I'm not impacting in the physical world, either by doing things to stuff, nor by directing people with commands to do things with stuff. My full attention is on putting information on the external metaphysical field. And as a consequence, I cannot concurrently be reading your questions without losing my train of thought. It's been proven a billion times over because it happens all the time. I'm halfway through an explanation and somebody says something in the chat and I go, damn it, no. And then I've completely lost whatever it is I was thinking about. So I'm having to look over here so that it doesn't happen. So I finish answering this question. That's why we know attentional manners exist. But here's an even better distinction. We can remember something, and when we do, it's complete. It's either, let's see, when did I go to Tops? On Wednesday or Thursday? What was it, yesterday? No, it must have been the night before. Okay, I went to Tops on Wednesday. When we know something like, what is that thing in the distance? It's a turtle. There's no figuring out process. We're waiting for the data to come together to coalesce into the answer. In contrast, okay, external metaphysical field. So what I'm saying is that fundamentally, observationally, basically indisputably, human beings experience their things in ways that can be described relating to 4 distinct fields. This, I can say, is outside of me, and that has meaning, okay? In other words, the 4 fields are this. The external metaphysical field is what we're on right now. I'm talking to you. You're listening to me, reading maybe the other chats or whatever, and you're not paying attention to stuff in the physical world. You're paying attention to stuff in the metaphysical world. The meanings of these ideas, how they link to other ideas and thoughts, what you might say in response, what other questions you have, etc. So in that regard, because it's all out here where we can all see it, and where we can all access the same thing, and from our own perspectives, that makes all of this data that's being said here objective data, in the sense that it's data that we can all reference. Some of the objective data comprises statements that are subjective claims. So being able to distinguish between all these sort of levels of object and stuff is pretty important. But regardless, regarding the fields thing, external metaphysical field is clearly different than the external physical field. And yet it's also a place where one takes action. I am taking action right now somewhere, and it's not, you might say, well, I'm taking action right here in this room. But that's not really where the action's having any impact. The impact has no impact in this room for my action. The impact is in each of your distinct rooms for my action. And my action doesn't involve changing the physical world at all, or the external physical field. It involves putting information on the external metaphysical field, which you then will relate to via your own intentional configuration and do with as you wish. So, yes, that's the difference between metaphysical and physical. Metaphysical is communicative, built of symbolic representations and mostly binary in nature, that the nature of time in that area is conditional, not linear or fluid. The physical, you have internal and external as well. So if I pinch myself, this is internal physical fields to know that it hurts. I know it from my body, from how I feel. Whereas if I kick a ball down a field, then I'm engaging with the external metaphysical field, because I'm trying to make thing A go from spot B in the external physical field, I meant to say, to spot C in the external physical field. So the thing is, the fact that people can meaningfully taxonomy all places where experience occurs, so to speak, into 4 is pretty hard to dispute. It's either happening in your head, out your mouth, in your body, or out there somewhere, you know? The reason I make this distinction early on when talking about cognitive functions is because cognitive functions represent one configuration. A cognitive function stack or personality type represents one configural approach to attaining the prime directive, which is narrow the gap between map and territory. So the communicative half of stuff, the stuff built out of language, abstractions, symbols, etc. It assumes things, right? So, like, let's say that, Rachel was pretty fussy tonight. She skipped her meds one day because I didn't get her to the pharmacy soon enough. I think that has something to do with it. It may just have been a bad day as well. She's just kind of fussy tonight, right? So, it's like, where is it going with that? I know it links into something. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm losing my edge. So, okay. No, I'm not saying meaning exists without an observer. Not at all. In fact, those who oppose cognitive functions are the ones who say that meaning exists without an observer. Those are the ones who insist that objectivity exists without somebody to be objective. I'm the one who's saying, no, that's absolutely not the case. So it's also the case, therefore, that I distinguish between not just object and subject, but I have a third class called agent. Note, object, subject, and agent are all objects. They're all forms of objects. Subject and agent being specialized forms of object. So a subject might simply be defined as that which an agent observes to take action upon an object. We know subjects and objects are different because we can't communicate functionally without establishing at least a subject and a verb. At least we can't make statements without at least a subject and a verb. I've eaten recently. I do need a bong rip. I could use an intermission, I guess, for. I feel like I gotta say I feel this great sense of relief, and I gotta take advantage of this while I can. Somebody's doing a good job of asking me to explain this, and that's a big deal because there are I'm trying to explain certain things, and um, it ought to be that if you're interested in trying to see if I'm right or not, you're sort of listening to one thing I say, evaluating it, and going, okay, well, that leads me to the next question, which is, so when I see that happening, I think, fantastic. This is my opportunity to explain it to somebody who can understand it and realize that I'm not blowing smoke up everybody's ass. The thing that bugs me is people who can't understand it still default to the assumption that I'm blowing smoke up everybody's ass because I don't have sufficient FETE legitimacy for them to afford me the benefit of the doubt. Which is exactly why David Sanderson, for example, earlier had a crisis of faith, saying, it's really hard to be president, Eric. Well, because I don't have sufficient TEFE legitimacy to validate on those heuristics. People who evaluate what I'm saying on its merits and who are evaluating it from an honesty that doesn't say, it's not driven by like hateriness or competitiveness, I think we'll find it by far the most robust, by far the most correct, and possibly quite definitive about the matters of cognitive functions. Okay, so the metaphysics has something to do with quantum physics. Look, I'm not going to get into quantum shit about cognitive functions. And I'm not going to answer quantum critiques of cognitive functions because I'm not trying to create a grand theory of everything. I'm trying to explain that the reason people persistently and consistently respond the way they do in certain kinds of ways, and you can see time and time again, is because of the nature of their cognitive function stack. Like, if I explain to you the way that my father's interactions go, you might think, like, why in the world would somebody do that? So I will frequently go to my dad and I will say, hey, Dad, you want to watch the game or something? And he'll be like, what's wrong with your TV? Nothing. Eric, I'm busy right now. Okay. So you might think either my dad's a complete asshole or that you might think, why would somebody do that? Like, why didn't he want to watch the game why wouldn't the elderly man want to watch the game with his son? You might think those things. And it makes no sense really until you realize my dad is TESI. He's all about solving problems and having his own experience of it and using what he already knows and what he's already doing. At any given moment when I approach my dad, he already has that moment planned out, and I'm always interfering. Now, on the other hand, whenever my dad approaches me with an idea, it's a different matter. It's very satisfying for him to say, hey, son, you want to go to the desert on this time and you can stay there? And he also really tries to make it pleasurable for us. Like he'll say, I won't be there on these days. You can go down there on those days when I'm not there. And of course, I'm being an FE person going, no, Dad, I want you around and I want you to feel wanted mostly. But also, I'm increasingly realizing I love you and value you, and I want to spend some time with you sometimes, and I'm not really spending all that much time with you, and I'm not sure to feel guilty or what, but it's really hard. The thing is, it makes perfect sense if you understand his cognitive function stack. Everything about my dad makes sense. Why? Because, no, I don't want to tell him that. It's just going to make him feel guilty and burdened. I don't want to make him feel guilty and burdened. And I do periodically try to remember to go up and hug him and tell him I love him and value him and stuff like that. And it seems to sort of startle him a bit. He's a man of S, I, and TE. He does what he does. He knows what he does. Why? He's done it before. He tells his stories. He knows his stories. Why? He's told them before. He looks for problems to solve all the time. He's constantly, it's like the poor Sunrise place where my mom is staying, the nursing home. They have my dad constantly pestering them about like what they need for my mom. And so because he's constantly pestering them, they think they're going to satisfy him by coming up with things that she needs. But then my dad's like, what's going on with this place? Why can't they give me a regular list of what she needs? Why is it always changing? Because they think that you bugging them again means you want some answer. So they give you one. What he wants is some sort of regimented, we need this many nighttime adult underpant things. They don't like you when you call them diapers. We need this many gloves. We need this many wipes. We need this many and we use this many a week. And we can have refill days on this and this. And there you go. He doesn't like the lack of planning there. It bugs him. So the point is, he's DESI. For me, I work very much the opposite way. If they're not calling me with a problem, then I'm assuming it's no problem. If they're calling me with a problem, I'm assuming it's their problem, and I could be convinced eventually that it's my problem. If it is my problem, I'll solve that problem and then go back to ignoring the thing again. If they keep calling me with problems, I'll be like, why do you keep having problems? I certainly won't go seeking problems, never in a million years. I think my dad's also bored because of COVID. So he just wants to go solve little problems. Of course, I've invited him. I probably should do so again, and would like for him to make political videos with me, to talk politics and discuss things like that and answer people's questions. He's got an amazing amount of fantastic, crazy stories from the past. He's done amazing things, like he had a weird life in terms of action-packed. In the Army and in the Navy first. Then because he got seasick all the time, went to the Army, played in the Army band, raced Mini Coopers in Europe, went to Le Mans and was there in that year that they made the movie about. He was one of the guys who like held up signs saying like, pit stop, come in for pit stop next time, or don't come in for pit stop next time, or something. My father's type is an ESTJ. My father also has a doctorate in philosophy, even though he's an ESTJ. Where were you going with the subject, object, agent explanation? So what I'm saying is this. When we look at cognitive functions, we're looking at an agent who acts as an agent always, and a subject sometimes, and an object sometimes. So if I'm just working as a subject, if I'm working as an agent and a subject, then I'm expressing my agency upon something, on a field external to me, okay? If I'm taking action or expressing myself as a person on an internal field, then I'm dealing with the agential part. And the reason we need to make the distinction is because as an agent, I can simply function as an observer of another agent being a subject taking action against an object. So if we don't have that third level, we're not accurately describing things. In English, as it stands, we inaccurately remove the observer from the sentence almost always. But we shouldn't, because if we were to have the observer in the sentence all the time, we'd realize why cognitive functions are by far the best explanation for things. It is, in fact, the case that I can talk out my explanation or still be thinking it out of my head. And it is actually the case that I can either provide an explanation or ask questions. Since I'm positioning myself here as the one who has the explanation, which is consistent with my type. I want to be the one putting information anyway. But since I'm the one who's doing the affirmation here, I'm going to be putting the most information. I'm not going to be asking a lot of questions. TI is my tool function. You could call it a get function. In other words, its most native thing is to ask questions and to pin other people down on what they mean. All right, so how do I meet my burden of proof regarding slot mechanics? So, I guess the thing is, okay, I would point out that you have a burden of proof to substantiate a given claim. Or for example, the aft burden to affirm is fundamentally a burden to substantiate what you claim. And if I fail to substantiate it, then we should negate and say this explanation is no good. It's never acceptable to say, well, this failed explanation is better than nothing. It's not better than nothing. So it is in fact the case that I need to meet my burden to affirm to establish that we ought to accept my slot mechanics explanation. The thing is, the answer is this. It validates both directions, which is to say the fundamental assumptions that the model is predicated on validate observationally. Additionally, they validate with a comparable kind of model, namely the internet, which says information moves in these ways. You can put information into a form, you can Google to get information, you can receive information unbidden, like as per an ad, or you can interface as I'm interfacing with you here, where I'm not able to be fully prepared to act when called upon to act. In other words, it's not like I'm giving a memorized speech and then going and sitting down. If I give a memorized speech and then go and sit down, I have time to deliberate the whole thing out and first take my entire action, and then other people act. It's the turn-based economy of the metaphysical half of the world, the communication half of the world. So to answer your question of how can I meet my burden of proof, well, it would be like this. I can successfully say that if somebody's clearly FE and has TI that's worse than Rachel, who's not great third slot TI, okay, but it's third slot. So it's like if you're significantly lower than Rachel, but you're clearly FE, okay, then you have to be an ENFJ. But here's the deal. That's one rule. Rule number 2. When tested then for SI, you have to also fail it miserably. So in other words, you also have to not be able to remember what you had for breakfast this morning, not be able to recount a series of small events that you performed in the last couple of hours. Any of them. Be able to be like, I don't know. When I ask an SI polar person, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Typical answer is, well, usually I have a bagel. Did you have a bagel this morning? Well, yeah, usually I get the bagel, and I'll make it out the door by 7 or 8. But did you have a bagel this morning? What, this morning? Yes. Do you remember this morning? Do you have a bagel this morning? But usually, not usually. That's how extreme it is, okay? So let's say I've got somebody who's clearly FE, like that guy, and somebody whose TI is worse than Rachel's, or worse than, name any INFJ whose TI you aren't especially impressed with. Sometimes you get INFJs who have flashier TI, sometimes not. Corey's like Rachel, his TI is not very flashy. But if you actually test both of them, they score in the third slot range. Okay, so if you get somebody who's worse than Rachel, Corey, I can think of any number of other INFJs, then you have somebody who's got either TI on the back slot, or you have somebody who has it fourth slot. If you also know they're FE, they have to be ENFJ, FE, TI, or ESFJ. Okay, those are the two possibilities. Now, if in fact they're ENFJ, they will have that memory deficit. If they're ESFJ, they will be good at that and they won't have a memory deficit. I don't have an equal test to say, aha, you're blind at this. Although the rat test is promising. ESTJs do stunningly bad at the rat test so far. The rat test is the 3 words thing. If I can get consistency on that and determine that is in fact a consistent metric, I will begin to apply that as an additional polar test, and I'll have 4 of them. The NE polar test is proved to actually be almost the most reliable one of all. I just had to get down. You have to ask a variety of NE questions in certain ways, and it becomes very clear. But anyway, the point is, I meet my burden of proof by coming up with situations like that, where I say, in fact, I give people opportunities to falsify it all the time. So because I'm always asking these kind of questions, if you spot somebody who's got good TI and let's say is clearly FE and has polar SI, then you falsified the whole model. So it's like polar SE is reserved for 2 types, ENFJ, ENTJ. It's easy to falsify. The very interesting thing, Stuart Johnson, is that it hasn't been falsified yet, despite ample public examples, chances for people to falsify it. Note, that's not the same thing as saying it's confirmed. Okay? But note how vastly better. Yes, ENTJ has decent TI and decent FE, which is why I added the stipulation, and if you could be sure that they were FE. Now, look, I agree that being sure that they're FE is a challenging, sometimes challenging. I feel like it's increasingly easy for me, but not necessarily increasingly easy for me to justify it. So that's fair enough. And I'm not saying it's a perfect science. I'm saying it gives you enough clear areas where you can push to make arguments that it doesn't make sense or that the data doesn't line up with what I'm saying, that given the amount of data and given the amount of people who very much want to falsify what I'm saying, it's shocking. And given my own willingness to look for instances to falsify, I've only come up with a couple of squirrely people in the whole time I've done it out of the hundreds. One of them was this one ENFJ guy who says, I concluded he was an ENFJ because he was so clearly extroverted, but I think I made a mistake there. I think he was an INFJ. And he was just seeming, I think I got fooled by him and didn't get fooled by this last guy. And I'm not going to get fooled like that again. So I think that apparent big exception that made me go, but there's one that violates the rule. And there was one more. And that person's name was Jade, ESFP, who apparently had very strong TI. I am now convinced that probably somebody was off screen giving her the answers because it stands so starkly as the only exception. So it's like, do I have shit tons of examples and possibilities to test it? Yes. Has it been absolutely consistent in testing that it doesn't falsify it? Yes, except for a couple of anomalies that are more likely to be anomalies than they are to actually be falsifiers. And it doesn't actually confirm anything, but confirming something like this is going to take somebody with better TE than me. In other words, I'm not a scientist and I'm not doing a good job of collecting and organizing data to make my case. Whew. What is going on up there? I don't have an FE polar test, but look, the interface functions are harder to test because they're implicit to fluid time shit. So they require interaction, and as a consequence, they're more shifty. Its best way to test for FE polar is to get an FE polar person talking about what they think about schmoozing and glad handing and being polite in manners and social conventions. If they start speaking about it as though it were, it's like the problem is it's lies and phonies and snakes and It's like people trying to take advantage of each other and exploit each other, and it's awful when they're just talking about regular FE. You just might have an FE polar. FE polars seem to resent their polars more than other polars. You know what I'm saying? What do I think of C.S. Joseph's Four Sides of the Mind? I think not any of the four sides of C.S. Joseph's mind is well, I think, put it this way, each of the four sides of C.S. Joseph's mind should be stacked neatly into a pile and thrown into the dumpster. How about that? That's a good enough answer. His four sides of his mind are all, how can I sell snake oil for more money? It's just like, how can I sell snake oil on one thing?
If you're in INTP, you have you're also an ESFJ and an ISFP and an ENTJ because that's your subconscious or something. Is that right? Or is that something else?
I mean, I think he thinks that yeah, you have your shadow self. Like my shadow self is what, like ESFP or INTJ or something?
Yeah, and there's three of them, three other ones.
Right, but here's the question about the shadow selves. What does that mean? Does it mean that sometimes I switch attentional manners and instead of being NETI, FESI, I'm NITEFISE? Because that's not true.
That way. I think it's I think you still use those functions, but I'm not sure how they manifest. Maybe they're saying it's a subconscious thing. You're still I don't really know how to put it.
Okay, so here, look. C.S. Joseph says that if I'm really pissed, I act like an ESFP. So that tells you that he has no idea what ESFPs act like. ESFPs don't, act like an ENTP acts like, which is to say when I'm angry, I still make the same arguments, just louder and less effectively. It's just that simple. I've had some. My first real, besides my parents, my dad was certainly my first real mentor. He drilled a lot of TE shit into me that I didn't really like, but I'm glad I had anyway. My second real mentor was Mr. I guess was Timothy Steele, who taught me how to write metered verse. He taught I already graduated from college, but I took a undergraduate poetry writing class at a local university, and it was taught by Timothy Steele, and he introduced me to metered verse, for which I'm eternally grateful, and it was a skill I've used and applied for ever since. Another mentor of mine was Mr. Samuelson, who taught me how to be a classroom teacher, who broke of me my pride, because for the first while I was teaching there, I was like, just remember, everybody, I don't care how much experience you got or whatever, I know best about everything. Okay, I'm Eric, so I know best about everything. And then I wasn't doing a good job, and I discovered that I had Dunning-Kruger about teaching. And he humbled my ass, and I applied myself. I said, okay, I'm going to put on the learner's hat. I'm going to realize that I suck at this, and I'm going to do what he says, which is you watch me, you write down everything I do, step by step, and then you do it exactly that way in your class, as close as you possibly can. You write, and you follow all of these precise rules and everything, precise details, T-E-T-E-T-E. So I wrote everything in cursive on the board because that was how we did it at that school. He was very old school. If students turned in their papers with where they drew their lines without a ruler, I'd tear the paper in half and tell them to restart it, just like Mr. Samuelson said I was supposed to do. And it seemed like, Jesus Christ, dude, you are old school. And you had to use not just a ruler, but you had to use a red pencil as well as a regular pencil. You needed to write each word over the spot in the appropriate spot in the diagram. Then in parentheses, on top of that, in red pencil, you needed to put the part of speech. And it all needed to be just like that. When we did the verb sheets, you had to create the table with a ruler by yourself and fold it in half and put the verb on top and conjugate it in the only, and everything had to be perfect. So I had to learn to teach like that, and boy, was that informative. Boy, did that help me. Help me more than anything in the world. To learn to be, it's like, okay, hold on. For the first time in my life, applying myself matters, because it never had before. I went from school where applying yourself doesn't matter. I mean, it might get you more success, but you're demeaning yourself in the process, right? So it is the case that if I were to apply myself more at school, I could have done better in school. But I would have demeaned myself in the case because I would be implicitly buying into the whole thing. I didn't understand anything of that at the time, but that's how it was. So hometown rapper, you did successfully derail my train of thought. You're not going to successfully provoke me, but good try. You did successfully derail my train of thought, though. So, what was I saying? I don't remember. God damn it, hometown rapper.
Okay, sounds totally. He has to be an ESTJ. Was he?
Who, hometown rapper?
No, the other guy. Your teacher.
Oh, that teacher. INFP, I'm pretty sure, actually.
Oh, really?
It's probably why I took to supervision so well. And then, another mentor I had sort of was this guy who was quite shady, and I guess. Okay. Well, I had the debate coach who gave me my middle school team at Rebay because he wanted to ditch the middle school team. He was kind of a mentor, helping with the mechanics of being a debate coach for a while. And then when I took over Kudos and I was always the head guy there. I was like the first employee and designed everything and whatever. So when I hired my assistant coach and I got Scott Wheeler, it turned out my assistant coach was a much more knowledgeable debate coach than I was. And he was an ESTJ. Now, these kind of cognitive function things turn out to be hugely important because it's not everybody you're willing to learn from. Some people you are. You are not invisible right now, Legends Fall. I see you. I feel you. I'm constantly touching you gently on the shoulder. Anytime you feel alone, go like this. Close your eyes. Oh, there's his gentle touch. You'll feel it. Anyway.
Or are you still talking about functions?
No, I'm still talking about functions.
Okay.
So I'm on a riggedy, rollity, rantity rig. So the point is this: cognitive functions can try to legitimate themselves on multiple levels. On one level, you can just say, "Oh, it's just an arbitrary taxonomy that doesn't need to be all inclusive. It doesn't need to be inclusive of even a category of thing. It's just one way of making it. It could be like astrology, or spirit animals. Spirit animals is a better example. It could be like spirit animals. There are this many spirit animals, and these all represent this. It'd be purely metaphorical. So we could treat it like that, and certainly would validate on those metrics because anything validates on those metrics. Or we could treat it like more of a legitimate taxonomy and say, this is a taxonomy that best represents the naturally occurring divisions between honestly distinct things. And that's the lower level of claim, but still a substantial claim that's not met by anybody else but me. And then there's the higher level of claim, which is this is actually a model that explains how the process mechanics of the functions interrelate to each other, such that the 1-2 necessarily define the rest of the stack, and how each configuration represents an approach to a prime directive, which makes it simulatable then. I have also good notions for simulating it as a playing card game. It's one of the things that's high on my list of things that I really want to finish, but I'm still partway through it. Basically, it's as simple as it's rummy, but rummy played on various fields with advantages on how you interact with the fields based on your cognitive function stack. So in the ideal game, there'd be 16 decks of cards, each one representing one of the types, and each would have their advantages and disadvantages in terms of their abilities as a player in relations to stacks on the fields and the fields themselves, according as represent as sort of like symbols of cognitive function. Yes, you know what I'm saying? At what age does the tool function start to develop? I would guess right away. I don't know. Those questions are really difficult for me to answer. Obviously, it's very challenging to say what's going on in a kid's head before they can talk.
I don't know. My younger brother, I thought he was ENFJ, but he's starting to sound like a little fussy. I don't know if he's going through like stage or something. But
maybe he caught temporary FI.
Huh?
Maybe he caught a case of temporary FI.
Maybe. Seems like it. Because he's usually not fussy at all. Like compared to other babies, he's usually not very fussy.
Well, like sometimes I'm susceptible to catching deafness and or retardation, which basically sounds the same. But I haven't yet. I'm not super susceptible to catching FI, but occasionally I do. Usually it looks like this. Will not. No, I will not do it. I don't want to. That's like when I suddenly have an outburst. It's kind of like an FI sneeze. I think we all have an occasional FI sneeze. Is no polar prone to more ideological thinking? I think that the polar that's most prone to ideological thinking is TI. I mean, it's not NI. SI tool users don't believe in the universal, basically. They just go, man, that's whatever. I haven't seen it. I don't believe it. But Dad, I'm serious. There really are mountain lions. Well, I've never seen one. I'm sure there's no mountain lions. And then he gets mauled by a mountain lion. All right, everybody. We need to constantly be on the lookout for mountain lions. I know from experience, mountain lions can get you at any time. That's the stupidity of SI tool. Okay. But everybody's got their own stupidity. That's the beautiful thing about typology is it's not normative because I can make fun of everybody the same way. Everybody's got their own blind spot and it makes everybody stupid. But it's just in a particular way. I'm really done with my FI. It's actually best exemplified by Isaiah Rude, who's a perfectly emotionally healthy ENTP who was raised in a very loving family, who has perfectly good attachment stuff, and who let himself get abused, like emotionally abused horribly in like a 3 or 4 week long relationship with his INFJ in Pittsburgh in ways that no sane person wouldn't have gone like, okay, what's going on here? At least, you might think I wouldn't have stayed in my relationship for 2.5 years with a BPD person who's abusing me, except FI polar. I just kept thinking, FI polar in part for me represents as anytime anybody critiques me, I think, okay, well, how are they right? And where are my argumentational vulnerabilities here? How can I avoid attack? And so the problem with that is if they're just trying to hurt your feelings, you're not doing anything wrong. There's nothing for you to fix. They're the ones at fault. But if you don't quite get that they're just trying to hurt your feelings, that what they're saying doesn't matter because it's not intended to express truth, but merely to hurt your feelings, then you'll likely meow the meow and meow the meow. Saturday, I think I've got a couple things going on, Kyrie. Let me look on the calendar. Saturday, we got a 1 p.m. and I think there was something else, but I think there's something else I'm supposed to put. No, maybe I got it all. That might be it. That might be all I have. I also want to watch the USC game. You can come over and watch the USC game, but if you like, if it's okay. I should really ask Rachel about these things first before I just invite people over. But you know. You know, I've been into McDonald's Coke here for quite a while. As far as I can tell, it hasn't helped me develop any new skills. I also, I'm into I know it's crazy, it's kind of newfangled, but I'm into a heliocentric universe model. At least I was, until I realized, hey, that heliocentric model, that's not helping me develop any new skills. Why believe in it? You know what I'm talking about, hometown rapper? It's like someone told me the world was a sphere, or spherical, basically, and I was like, what am I getting out of that? And it's like, the truth. Well, how much can I pawn that for? He's like, nothing. And I'm like, flat round, who gives a fuck? Right? Am I right? Am I right, hometown rapper? It's like that one time somebody told me hometown rapper had terrible ideas. I'm like, what does that tell me? I don't give a fuck. He's got great ideas as far as I'm concerned. It's all the same to me. And he's like, yeah, you're right. Good ideas, bad ideas, all the same. Gosh, we've all learned an important lesson here tonight, thanks to hometown rapper. Wow. I'm sorry, can I call you Rometown Happer? I think it's a better name. I think Rometown Happer is a better name. Or even Tone Round Happer. I'm sorry, Roan Hound Tapper. You could be either of those. Roan Hound Tapper or Rometown Happer. Either of those are fine. Rometown Happer. Rometown Happer is my name, and I'm a hometown rapper. That's my game. I'm in your home, at your town. I'm rapping at you. I'm rapping at your clown. I'm a hometown rapper. That's my name. Rapping at homes and towns all the same. I'm a Tonetown Happer. Crapping insane. Yes, I'm hometown rapper's my name. That's his main rap. That's hometown rapper's main rap that he does. When he introduces himself to the kids at the Don't Do Drugs school assemblies that he performs at. He's also got, he starts with this one. Okay, kids, can I get a beat? And then, so he's got a guy who beatboxes, and he's got a guy who pushes a button to make beats play as well. Which, and then it usually takes a little while for them to get the music going, because a lot of times he just has it on a CD and a boombox. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. That's how I roll too. Punk rock, all right? Punk rock. What? Couldn't be found. Are you serious? Did you lose that? Did you lose that? I hope not. I hope not too. All right.
Becky Deluxe asks, where is Jordan Peterson fundamentally wrong?
About what? It's like you want me to create a point of conflict between them. Where do you think he's right? That you think I might think he's wrong?
Types.
I mean, I think he's wrong about Big Five. I've already articulated why. The fact that Jordan Peterson believes in Big Five doesn't change my argument of Big Five at all.
Of course not.
Right, but I'm saying, like, where else do I think Jordan Peterson is wrong? Well, okay, he tends to frame things a lot through an evolutionary frame, which I think is completely bullshit. So there's that. Like, one time I heard him give an answer to something. A student asked, why, Dr. Peterson, Dr. Peterson. Yes, you back there in the back. Dr. Peterson. Yes. Spit it out. Come on. Why is it that advertising, when people have read in the advertising that people buy more stuff? And he said, ripe fruit. You see, back during our hunter-gatherer days, when, for no reason whatsoever, all of the evolution of humanity occurred, both the cause and effect of every evolutionary development, of course, links back to either hunting, gathering, or the combination of the two, sometimes called hathering, sometimes called gunting, depending on which tribe you spoke with. The point is, of course, that's why people buy things more when there's red in an advertisement, because ripe fruit. I see. So the thing about that is, okay, point one, very few instances of ripe fruit are red. Correct? So why didn't the hunter-gatherers prioritize eating oranges or grapes, for example, green grapes, or I don't know, melons, squash, shit tons of green vegetables that are edible. Strawberries are red, I guess, but not all ripe fruit is red. And ripe fruit comprises a tiny fraction of the edible gathering things you could have, right? Like, if you were a hunter-gatherer and you could pick an evolutionary advantage related to food visualization, like visibility, like what food do I want to be able to see better? You wouldn't pick ripe red fruit, would you? You'd say, I don't know, brown deers that I can shoot with my bow and arrow. Or you'd say, I'd rather be able to see where the tuber vegetables are under the ground, where they're ripe, so I don't have to dig so much. Or you'd say any number of things. You wouldn't go, I know what the best evolutionary advantage is. This incidental trait of liking red in ads links back to the fact that ripe fruit is red. I mean, it's just completely nonsense. You know, I mean, it's so poorly thought out. It makes me want to vomit all over my lap as soon as I hear it. Fortunately, I've got good control over that. I usually dry heave a couple of times before I actually puke. And by that time, I can get to the sink. Here we go. So I'm just doing a quick review of Hometown Rapper's shows, because he is, of course, an in-school rapper, anti-drug in-school rapper. Hi, kids, I'm Hometown Rapper. You might think that I do drugs. Oh no, that's not dapper. I think the drugs go in the crapper. Drugs are bad because they're no good. Drugs will go in your neighborhood. You'll smoke them with your lungs. but then you'll be up a big creek bung. Yes, you'll start having anal sex. Once you rap about drugs, then you'll know that they're no good. Until you rap about drugs, it's nonstop anal gaping. Don't get involved in anal gaping. That associates with drugs. Don't get involved with anal gaping. That associates with drugs. Oh no, is that a fist going up your butt? You must have done drugs. That's pretty much like, it's not exact, it's a paraphrase, but that's mostly one of his shows, pretty much. That's how it goes, largely. He raps a lot about drugs and anal fisting. I don't know if he's into it or if he just thinks it's like the ultimate example of the life gone wrong. He's an interesting character. A lot of people wonder what his motivation is.
Huh.
Are we talking about how many chromosomes we have?
Why do ENTJs seem so different from each other? It's really weird. Like they're similar in one way, but they're different in like.
I mean, look, it certainly is possible that ENTJs are similar to or dissimilar to each other. I mean, I just saw an ENFJ who's quite dissimilar to Sean, for example. And if they're unusually dissimilar from each other compared to other types, I'm not sure about that. I've seen quieter ENTPs, I've seen louder INTPs, I've seen even, comparatively loud ISFP. Now, keep in mind, the ISFP loudness is not loud compared to any other type, but still. You mean harder as in more difficult, or harder as in like closer to that which the youth cultures would call dank, or smashing in the Rari? Who wants me to smash in the Rari? If so, Rachel, we're going to have to get a Rari. If I'm going to be smashing in the Rari, well, that was just drums. That didn't have bass in it, I guess. All right, let me see if I can find on a better beat. Not a better beat, but a different beat. Hard, huh? A hard beat. Okay, what makes a beat hard? Let me look and see if I can find some free YouTube. Let's see, or copyright safe trap beat. That's what I'm gonna search for here on YouTube. Copyright safe trap beat. All right, let's listen to a couple of these beats here. See if this is trap enough for you. We'll let hometown rapper decide if the beat is trap enough. This is taken from Naruto. This is cool. This is a beat made out of a Naruto song.
Steel party, you make me crazy.
Is this too dank? I do like the fact that they're sampling Naruto.
Oh my god, man, you can be roaring. Like, it has literally tossed my laptop off and make me laughing so hard. What is this?
This beat was made from Naruto. You can hear the Naruto song in the background. It's pretty good, actually. I don't typically like trap beats because I don't like the way they do the hi-hats. I just want to go. Just to give it a spine, It doesn't have fun. And he's something steady, it's like it doesn't have It needs a kick to go. You know, it needs to move. That's the problem. It doesn't move. It's more style than it is energy. You know, I want more energy, less style. So let's try this one. That was Naruto. Let's try Criminal. Do something there. Start right in the middle there.
Trap beat.
Somebody wanted me to rap over a trap beat. Yo, I rap about super dark shit, like killing people and murder, having rapes and fun, doing drugs and sun. You can't be as hard as me. I'm a rapper, can't you see? This is the kind of garbage rap that goes into this.
The offender beat.
You know, that's the kind of stupid ass rap that goes into this beat.
I mean, you proved you could do it.
Cause you ain't never seen a motherfucking rapper like me. I'll bring the motherfucking guns up and kill your teeth. It's like that kind of stuff.
Totally.
You know? And then they bring on the guy with the high voice. You don't want to. And then, you know, like the low voice comes back in and goes, hell yeah! Boy! But yeah, I don't really like this beat. I mean, I think it's silly. You know, it's like the only way you can make a song that works with this is you have to be dark. I'm just not dark, you know. You know. I was a little boy, didn't have no toy. Mama don't give me no shit. Lock me in the closet with the bitch. Take a broom, sweep up my room. Now I gotta go vroom vroom. Fuck you, mom. Mommy didn't love me, no, I do a lot of drugs. I don't like it when you came and tell me I'm a thug. So fuck you, mom, yeah. Fuck you, mom. Yeah, I started doing drugs when I was just 6 years old. I do them now like they is gold. Go in the club, high on the molly, high on the shit, high on the volley. What am I gonna do? I like that kind of shit.
Yes.
So that's why I wouldn't want to use this kind of beat because it's so like stereotypically what it is, you know.
You are slaying.
Well, I'm a mumble rapper. I don't make no thing. I'm not doing a mumble rapping. These young fans don't talk about shit because it's a mumble time and I don't need to say no words because I could mumble all the time and mumble rapping with my curve. Thanks, mumble rapper. That was really good. We can understand you. No, we couldn't. Should we be able to? I don't know. You didn't have a story, so what the fuck? Who cares? I don't know. Fuck you. It's a kind of beat that encourages you to do different kinds of rappers. I mean, kind of beats I like to use are like very straightforward. Like, I mean, ideally, the kind of rapper I like to do is like rapping. I like to do is like, well, like for example, I am the rapping man, like that kind of rapping. Or let me find a rapping song. I don't know if I ended up ever publishing that.
I don't think you did.
I think I might have taken it down.
Why? Did you ever put it up?
Yeah, I think so. Probably. Let's see. This is a rapping song. If you want to make a rap song that people like, you can't rap wrong. You gotta rap right. Handle it, mix it up, fast enough. I know what I want to play. I want to play Making Corn. Making Corn is one of my good rap songs that I like. Not really many other people like it, but Making Corn, I think, really represents my style as a rapper. Corn. And also the kind of beat I generally like, I guess. See, I like this song because it's a rap song that is actually about making corn. So get up, Eric, quit your bitching, cooking showtime in the kitchen, be alive and start to roll. You won't arrive if you don't go. The sun has rose, the bread has risen. This user's nose will choose this dripping. I'm up all night. Well, it's actually not the one I was trying to find. I'm trying to find the one that goes, what's it called? The one about cans. Is that what it's called? Like hams. Hams. Take my hams. This is the one I was looking for.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, a dozen. You say I'm responsible, I wasn't. You say that I do, I doesn't. You say that I must, I mustn't. She knows well how to kill men, blindside them with running up hills, and then crank knobs to 10, assault them again with a deafening din. Salt their eyes, make them blind with the chin, and when you say you're right, but you're totally fussing. If they serve you corn, you demand dress it. I check my phone, your dozen. How do you do be your cousin? On my button, break my hands, stick my butt, salt my lance, kill my sperm, take my hands on the firm, negate the truth, crack my cups and shake up cans, I can use my glance, let this weight bend my plans, I'm bringing my quarterly bins asunder, find and condemn every one of my blunders, make me attend to your golden thunder, forget the tattoo, just remove the skin under. Jack and I didn't know should find a baby when I had not just
I wrote it.
I
didn't freestyle
For the leader of the group, playing Captain Boots, she got the thing and the fish sinking all of the boats. So it's all she's a risk, it's a hoax, those two, you're a man, need to grow, what the hell am I to do? Pull my button, break my hands, kick my buttons, all my lands, get my sperm, take my hams down the firm, to get the truth, crack my cups, shake up hands, take a loop, keep my plans, legislate, and my plans. One of my formerly bins asunder, find and condemn every one of my blunders, make me attend to your golden thunder, and a tattoo, just remove the skin under. Pull my button, break my hands, kick my buttons, all my lands, get my sperm, take my hands down the firm, negate the truth, crack my cups, and shake up hands, act to loop, tease my glands, legislate, bend my plans, render my orderly bins asunder, try and remind every one of my thunder, like, that song I probably came up with beat first.
That beat is great.
But the thing about rapping songs is they come in different forms as well. Like, for example, Dancing Party Dance is more like a we call it a square dance talker than a rapping song. You know how the square dance talkers go, take your partner, spin around, make her go down to the ground. And they do it in time with the beat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dancing Party Dance is more like that kind of thing. How come that Dancing Party Dance doesn't come up, host Eric's song first? What is going on with this? There it is. It is the global dancing craze. Dancing Party Dance is the name of this song, and instead of learning words, you should dance along. So this song teaches you a dance, okay? Don't fret about it. Everybody should learn the dance. Songs have a long tradition, and the Dancing Party Dance, which goes with this song, it's not a hard dance to do and not too long. First you're walking forward, pointing and stuff. Look around now, wait, pull out your guns. Now walking backwards, a total forward step. Once there, drop your guns, cause it's time to rest and do the axle rose by hipping your hips. Clap, step it back, clap, clap. Now to the foot, the dance is on the left. So that song takes advantage of what I saw as a clear, unserviced niche in the music industry. How many songs can you think of that explicitly teach you a dance within the song? The first one that comes to mind, naturally, is the Hokey Pokey. You put your left foot in, you put your left foot out, you put your right foot in, you put your right foot out, put your left arm in, your left arm out, your right arm in, your right arm out. Those are things that you do in that song. This also has some instructions on how to dance. Okay, first you're walking forward, looking at stuff. Look around, wave, pull out your guns. Now step it backwards. Take your 4 steps. Now drop your guns because it's time to rest and do the Axl Rose by dipping your hips. Clap, step it back, clap, clap. Like that. Okay, well, listen. Does it teach the song as explicitly as that song does, and it repeats it as well, so you have a second chance to learn how to do it? I'm not saying it's the only song to ever do it. I know there are other songs that did it. I said it's an under attacked angle of attack. Like there's room for more of those songs, and it's an area where I thought, hey, you know what? I could write a dancing song. I could make up a dance. I could do that, and so I did. Was it successful? No. But did that stop me? No, it did not stop me. I still think it's going to fulfill its title and become at some point the global dancing craze that I want it to be.
I agree.
Can I shuffle dance? I don't know what shuffle dancing is. Is it when everything gets wiggly? Did that edible do anything to you?
I don't know.
Didn't seem to do much to me.
I don't think.
You want to split the other one?
Yeah.
It's like I'm trying to get high
My
here.
eyes are red because of the makeup.
I was just wondering because I just realized, like, I don't feel like this edible did anything to me. This is what I'm talking about. We got these 100 milligram cookies from Herbarium, okay?
Thank you.
The 100 milligram cookies from Herbarium.
Thank you, Pete.
Great.
I love you too.
Not even half of them. Each had like 3 or 4 of them, which means like 30 or 40 milligrams each. And we each got high. No problem. This thing's crazy.
To make a raw album, I think you already makes. I don't know.
I have a lot of rap songs. The problem is Dr. Logi not to convince me to make a rap album. It's that I'm not very good at producing my own music. I'm not very good at producing myself. I try my best. I have hundreds of songs that I've made. And I've gotten a lot better than I used to be. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to be successful because I can do everything, all the different parts well, then I'm probably going to fail. Like, you know, I'm going to do some of the parts well. I'm a good guitar player. I write some good songs.
Yeah, he is specialized.
The thing is, as far as rapping goes, I'm a competent rapper, but ultimately, I think my most standout musical skill is songwriting. So if I was going to be successful, it would be someone who's really good at highlighting and displaying why my best songs are so good. I'm not very good at doing that. Despite my best efforts, I've been trying for years. But I just have to admit at some point, I guess I'm just not very good at this, although I'm getting better. ISJ wants Rachel and I to have a twerk off. Well, I think that here's one thing I want to say is that the ultimate Rorschach test is if you were at the Britney and Justin famous dance-off, how would you feel and which person's side would you be on? That's the ultimate Rorschach test. And why? It'll tell you everything you need to know about a person.
Why is it the ultimate Rorschach test?
Well, because it tells you everything you need to know about like probably let's say they're like Brittany and Justin who? Okay, you can probably go ISTJ right off the bat. Let's say they go like wow, I probably just leave. I don't know what the point of that would be. How would that solve any problems? It's probably like an ESTJ, right? But if they go, well, I mean, I like Brittany a lot more, but I couldn't help but side with Justin because, you know, Brittany cheated. She didn't deserve to win the dance-off. Well, then you started to narrow things down. If they say, you know, if I were Brittany, I know it's horrible, but I would just run up to Justin and just love him again anyway. And I said, please forgive me. that's probably a girl who cheated, maybe. Or if it's a dude and he goes, I just be like, whatever, it doesn't matter, and I just keep fucking her, then he's not reliable as a relationship partner. If there's somebody that's why I side with Justin, because Brittany's a bitch. Brittany's a crazy bitch. Then that they're prioritizing sort of success vectors or something. I don't know. You could conclude a lot of different things, right?
You can, because I saw this TV show and there was an avid Britney fan on there, and she basically was like, Britney can do no harm, and I was like, huh? Yeah. I was like,
Just by virtue of the fact that she's Brittany.
yeah.
Well, you inherited that quality from Jesus, I guess. The inability to sin. Britney Spears was born unable to sin. You had to learn it. Tough lesson.
She is so virgin.
She's still a virgin, I couldn't believe it either. Turns out, of all the people in the world, Brittany was born with Christ's inability to sin and the Pope's infallibility. Doesn't seem like, I know it doesn't seem like it the way she's lived her life. But you know what that tells me? It just tells me she's not exploiting her powers for personal interests, and I respect that.
I respect that too. She's fighting against the conservator.
Infallibility. So if you have infallibility, does that mean you're infallible about penises?
Seems like it.
ISHA 12. I can't believe there were 11 other ISAJs before you. It's a new PC term for lesbianism and infallibility. Funny, I like it.
No.
Why don't they just call them puss lovers? Puss lover is a good name for a lesbian.
That is. Would that be your screen name?
Puss lover 69, yeah.
Has a 69 there.
Puss lover 69, watch out noobs.
Watch out.
I think my screen name.
It's the most
Then
annoying.
they have a bumper sticker on the back of their Subaru that says, "We don't need no strong to make us strong." And then hyphen lesbians. Signed lesbian. No dick will ever compare to your loving fingers. That's what they write in each other's birthday card. Love, Margaret.
What are y'all types? The ENTP. Just do. Eric's the ENTP.
Oh, yeah, she is.
What about
There seems to be a lot of ENTPs for some reason.
No, there aren't.
No.
A lot of people say they're ENTPs.
You're literally not that.
Like common
Who?
ENTPs.
What name did you say? Who's an ENTP?
Let's see. Well, I know one ENTP.
I can think of a couple of ENTPs I know. Utter Self. I'm assuming he's an ENTP. I don't never sure for sure. But I'm very confident that Rusmus is an ENTP. I'm confident that Becky is an ENTP. Whatever that's worth. She's not necessarily the proudest representative of the type, but that's fine. I'm sure that.
I you thought Becky was like the ESFP. I don't really know anything about that, but
no, I'm always maintaining the same position on her. She is definitely an ENTP. I'm sorry, one second. She's the one who convinced me that Delilah is not an ENTP, but rather an ESTP. Go ahead.
What did she say?
It's very obvious. Hang out with Becky. Okay, this is what a female ENTP looks like. This is why Delilah's not fitting my test very well, because Becky fits them perfectly. Excellent TI, excellent NE. Competent SI, competent NI, clearly heavily valued FE, ENTP. And she acted like me. I'd never really met anybody for the duration of the time when we were friends where I thought reminded me quite so precisely of my exact kind of ENTP. So there were a couple of pretty big differences between us, maybe linked to stage of development or maybe linked to history. I'm not sure she had as good a childhood as I had. So, and not that mine was perfect. I endured some bullying and stuff, but I was loved at home for sure. And I wasn't bullied super badly or anything. It's hard to distinguish between ESTPs and ENTPs. For me, not anymore. It used to be. Right now, I'm feeling like if I take my time and do it right, I can type anybody at near 100% at this point. I'm rarely confused. When I am, it'll resolve itself like it did with that ENFJ, and into a just delightfully clear resolve. When chick all comes together like that, and once again, what looked like it was threatening the model turns out to be validating it.
What do you think about that Arizona iced tea?
It's empty.
What do you think about it?
Oh, I liked it.
It's good, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind going back to the CVS and getting a bunch of those because they're 4 for $2.
That's so good.
50 cents a piece for those Arizona lighters.
I was going to ask you, didn't you say that TI is the most more likely to be ideological than NI?
I think that likelihood of being ideological or being involved in politics or caring a lot about politics is not a part of personality, really. I think it varies according to different parts of your life. And so there were times when I was very involved emotionally in politics, and there were times when I was very not involved either emotionally or intellectually in politics. There were times when I've been involved intellectually in politics but not emotionally, like right now. And it really depends. The thing is, for all of those times, though, had you asked me, I would have had clear political opinions. The challenging thing is if you ask certain types if they have clear opinions about things, they don't want to answer the question. They don't like talking about politics. They don't want to tell you what their opinions are because they don't want to have to defend them. And so they might often say, well, I'm not really political. But that doesn't mean they're not positions. So it's hard to say exactly. I mean, I would say that extroverted intuition likes to talk about shit, right? Introverted feeling likes to feel strongly about shit. So ENFPs are likely to be advocates. I think ENTPs are likely to say, fuck it, I'm going to prioritize my own shit. I don't want anything to do with the public sphere because it's just not done intelligently there.
Yeah, it's just ENFPs, maybe INFPs.
You know what happens to the INFPs after one chore, don't you?
So I was interviewed by Stacey London, and she said to me, she was like, "Look, everyone has been giving no opinion. We want an opinion. Like, can you give me an opinion?" I was like, "Yeah," because like I understood, because she's like, everyone's just saying, "Oh, do whatever you want. Just whatever you want. Wear whatever you want, however you feel should be what you wear, blah, blah, blah." She was like, "We need an opinion." And I was like, "I can give you one." And yeah, she asked me if a person works as a clown, should they wear their outfit when they get home? And I was like,
That's a weird question.
I was like, no, they could put their clown outfit away. They don't have to be a clown like all the time.
Yeah, the thing is, it's a question where the person wants an answer one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
No, of course not. Or yes, they should have to wear their clown outfit all the time. Okay, because otherwise they'll be sneaking around, pretending not to be a clown, hiding the fact that they're a clown when we should all be alerted to that fact. Clowns are not to be trusted.
She cares. I just want an opinion. She's like, "Thank you."
That's such a ridiculous question. I would probably give the ridiculous answer.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
What I was going to say.
What's your answer? Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. Matt Lina guy is probably good at certain skills that you would find useful.
Okay.
I think he's an ENTJ. I'm pretty sure. Like, he mistyped himself as an INTJ at one point, but he says he's like. I think that his understanding is somewhat closer to yours than a lot of other people's, because he said he had like an introverted affect, but he was actually an E. He actually led with extroverted thinking.
Yeah, well, it's the least colloquially extroverted of the extroverted functions because it's solving problems and attaining goals rather than interfacing with people.
Yeah. I mean, Paul, my stepdad seemed kind of ENTJ-ish. My biological father's a bit more extroverted.
I want to answer Jeff's question, which is a good one, which is, if I can find it, about was your interest in politics based on understanding shortcomings of society, or was it driven on enhancing your view on how you can contribute? So I had no interest in politics for quite a long time. When I started the YouTube channel, I was talking just cognitive function stuff and vlogging, debate stuff. And at some point, I don't remember exactly what happened, but it's like as a part of those conversations, people, and part of the debate conversations, people ask me policy questions and stuff. And, you get asked kind of questions that are important to the questions that one might ask a political candidate. They're important for a political candidate to be able to answer. Things like, what do you think of the state of politics in America? Or what do you think of Black Lives Matter? Or what do you think of So at a certain point, I came to the determination that I have to do something, and I better do it right now because I need to be elected by 2020. I gotta put an end to this farce that is the Trump presidency, and everything's heading right to the edge of the cliff, and somebody needs to fucking jump on the bus and stop it. The thing is, I was premature. I wasn't ready to do it, and life, of course, coordinated to shut that down anyway when I broke up with that girlfriend and had to move back to my dad's house at the exact time when he really needed me to move back to his dad's house, again, sort of incidentally, and help with mom, which I did for about 4 months, 5 months or something. I don't know, before mom got put into a home. So the thing is, now mom's not in a home. In theory, I could have tried to get a late started run for 2020, and then COVID hit. My only plan that I had initially about running was that I would travel around the country, having already set up ahead of time things at colleges and or like League of Women's Voters or whatever, where I could go and speak to people and just build a grassroots interest. That approach is very much challenged by the reality of COVID, where group gatherings are increasingly are more difficult to gain access to than they used to be. Anyway, but the real reason why I determined to run for president is simply this. I have been repeatedly surprised to discover in the last 5 or 10 years or so that I am rather deeply patriotic, that issues of patriotism get me very emotional, that I believe in the country, I believe in the Constitution, I believe in the preservation of rights, I believe in the promise of a citizen democracy, citizen republic, whatever you want to call it, representative democracy, whatever you want to call it. I believe in the promise of America. But I think that the primary problem that we currently have is one of how we talk about things. So my number one goal would be I want the presidency. I need the presidency because I need the bully pulpit. I need the presidency mostly so that when I talk, people listen to me. I'm not going to run as a libertarian because, number one, I'm not a libertarian. Number two, I am trying to put an end to agenda politics. Libertarianism is an agenda. The Democrats have an agenda. The Republicans have an agenda. The so-called liberals, which are mostly Democrats, have an agenda. The conservatives, which are mostly Republicans, have an agenda. My agenda is to not filter political decisions through an agenda first. So in other words, I will look at a given political issue, and the last thing I'd consider, if I consider it ever, would be which side it helps. Which team it helps, which team gets the win. I would like to find solutions that render the point in dispute moot so that neither team gets the win nor the loss. And that both teams see that there are solutions that can be had when we can put aside our insistence on blaming one half of the people while concurrently trying to force through our own way. I'm not for revolution. No, I'm for the opposite of revolution. I'm for deliberation.
Do you think I'm a patriot?
Yeah.
Thanks. I think I am too.
I mean, to be honest, I have never even had any opinion about it at all. I haven't thought about it ever before. But I've never thought you're not a patriot.
Right?
It's like I don't judge anybody else's level of patriotism. However, I never think like, is that person not patriotic or whatever. I think I was just surprised to discover just how patriotic I am, because I'm not intellectually in favor of nationalism or something. It's not like I'm a pro-nationalist. It's not like I'm a jingoist who thinks that American exceptionalism is the way to go. But yet I do believe in American exceptionalism, but it's not international exceptionalism. It's the exceptional quality of preserving rights at the expense of some safety. There's some of that needs to occur. Like one thing that I can use when trying to get elected for president, once I figure out how to successfully capitalize on the narrative, is that COVID explains and demonstrates desperately the need for logic first. So the thing is, we already know how we should have dealt with COVID. We should have dealt with it within the principled ways that we normally do. We should have first checked to see if the outbreak is localized enough for a quarantine to work to maintain it locked in that area. Failing that, we need to make a determination as to whether or not a quarantine is going to work in areas B, C, D, or E. And if so, why and how? Now, if in fact we determine that a quarantine can't work because the nature of the virus is such that it's almost impossible to contain without shutting down so much that people don't even have the ability to attain to critical services and stuff. So once you determine that a genuine quarantine isn't justified / can't work, then what that means is you resign yourself to, okay, so it looks like we're not going to stop this. What do we want to do about it? And the answer is, of course, make people very aware of the risks, especially vulnerable populations, and encourage people to take protective measures where they see it to be important to them. Encourage it for everybody. Allow whatever stores they want to require masks. For those people who are healthy, we know for a fact that there's no moral, legal, or principled justification for compelling people to wear masks unless we have a reason to believe they're sick. In other words, not proving I'm not sick is not a good enough reason to require me to wear a mask. So there are simply ways in which we do things that make sense. If you're going to justify something with a cost-benefit analysis, fine. But if you're going to justify this COVID policy with the cost-benefit analysis, then you have to do all of the costs and benefits first. And so you might say, well, but lives outweigh. We're going to save lives, and that's the most important impact. And so we win the impact calculus. What I would say is this. If you're serious about your COVID policy, you would have actually checked. You know, it's like, well, what are the actual impacts going to be? Because we know that not only will we save some lives potentially by locking shit down from COVID, we also know we're going to cost some lives. We're going to cost some livelihoods. We're going to cost some mental health. We're going to cause a lot of major problems. One of the things we did was divide the population into necessary and unnecessary by drawing a clear distinction between people being alive and what they do. But the problem is, for many, if not a majority of working adults, what they do is a huge part of their identity, especially if they like what they do. For the most successful people, maybe their identity is very much attached to what they do. So you're telling them not just that their job's unnecessary, but that they are unnecessary. We don't need you out here in society. You stay home. Now, it would be one thing if you could establish that the person was sick and we don't want you in society right now because you are contagious. That's very different than we don't need you in society, so stay home indefinitely until we can prove you're not contagious. Very, very different. What's the solution to COVID? Let it run its course. What's the solution to masks? Everybody choose for themselves. What's the solution to masks being required in businesses? Let the businesses choose for themselves. That's it. That's it. What if more people die? Then more people will die. But the thing is this. Remember, there are also comparables we can compare against. In terms of fatality rate, this is comparable to any yearly flu. And yet our response to it is disproportionately massive. So while it may kill more people than the flu, our response to it, let's say it kills 10 times more people than the flu. Our response to it is way more than 10 times bigger. If we look at an opportunity cost calculus, we would say, how much money has been spent, how many resources have been spent on COVID, and approximately how many lives have been saved. Now, the fact is, we can't determine that at all. We're not even sure that lives have been saved at all, but let's pretend we could. Now we're going to say, can anybody think of any other ways in which we could have saved many more lives with that amount of resources than the way we chose to spend that money? We could also think of it this way. We can shut down the economy for a while, basically one time, without and have the world come back from it, you know. But if we're going to do that, it should be, and since we can only do it once, we don't want to waste it on something minor. So let's say I've got a super powerful attack in my video game. I don't want to use it on one of the little minions. I want to use it on the boss guy, right? Well, we wasted our big attack thing on the minion. This is not a pandemic. This is not a plague. There are no bodies in the streets. The hospital beds are not overflowing with patients. People are not benefiting from respirators. The vast majority of people not only don't die from it, they don't get any symptoms at all. It appears now by new research that links to T cells. So if you have healthy T cells, you won't even catch it at all, let alone get no symptoms. That you're basically immune just for having healthy T cells. But the worst thing of all is that now it sets the precedent that maybe I need to go establish that I have healthy T cells before I'm allowed out of my house without a mask or with a mask even potentially. That's doing it wrong. You can't force people to prove a negative. You have to, people are innocent until proven guilty. People are healthy until there's reason to believe that they're sick. Because otherwise we set precedent. If anything that might harm somebody potentially justifies this kind of nonsense, then pretty soon it's like, well, anybody who's ever been in a car accident before, or anybody who's ever been hit by a car before as a pedestrian is no longer allowed to walk across crosswalks. It's too dangerous. They might die. Might as well stop anybody who's ever been in an accident from ever driving again. It's too dangerous. You might kill somebody.
That's just bananas.
It's like that's the path that the world's going down. New York trying to legislate the maximum size of sodas, as if the state government can better decide how much liquid I want to drink than I can.
Yeah.
Taxing cigarettes to death. I'm not. When I buy cigarettes, that doesn't force you to smoke. That would make sense. Okay, well, I'm going to tax the shit out of this because every time you buy cigarettes, that means I have to smoke and I don't want it. Okay, well, go ahead, tax the shit out of it then. Or even hold me liable. I'm forcing my thing on you or whatever. But the justification is we have to tax cigarettes to pay for all the additional healthcare costs that they cause. Except when I go to the doctor or the hospital or whatever, as far as I remember, I'm the one paying for that. Right?
Yep.
Not my tax dollars. So it's not like my cigarette taxes go into a fund and I get to qualify for joining that fund as a cigarette smoker. And since I'm joining that fund, oh, good, you're sick, but good news, you're a cigarette smoker. So you get to pay for it from your cigarette tax fund. There's a lot in it because you bought a lot of cigarettes over the years.
Yeah.
Not like that.
No, it's not.
The justification would suggest that would be the only reasonable thing to do with those tax dollars, if that's actually why we're taxing those. The reason cigarettes are easy to tax is not because it's a sin, or sin tax they call it, for things that are considered bad. It's because it's a minority that's not respected. It's a disrespected minority. I'm done with my thoughts.
Yeah. Post a link in for chess if you want to play.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to play chess tonight, James. I'm answering a couple more questions. I'm going to wrap this up. It's been a good live stream. I've enjoyed it. I'm feeling what's the word? Infused with spirit at the moment. Like I feel as though I'm making headway by the narrative or something. How come I don't do a podcast? I could fall asleep listening to your voice. What is this? Isn't this like a podcast?
You can do that. I did.
It's kind of like a podcast, but I don't think you can put it on Spotify because people wouldn't get in that context. And, you're always moving from one thing to another.
Well, because I'm being motivated by the chat to change topics.
Yeah.
That makes it interactive. It's one of these newfangled technological things, David Sanderson. It's interactive. That's what all the kids are into these days.
Sure.
They don't want to be sold something in an advertisement. They want an immersive, interactive media experience that positions them with our product in a way that makes them feel at home and deeply in love with our product. The tax smokers community needs to be heard. The other thing is weed's really taxed heavily too. It's sort of like this deal that was made with the government, right? All right, we'll stop unjustly persecuting you people with our wanton and completely wicked violence, but you got to pay us 25%. Okay, everyone's like all excited. Oh, wonderful. Where's the massive fuck you that they deserve? The fuck? You should be paying us pot smokers back each money as reparations for the Holocaust of rights violations your drug laws have executed in the first place.
Seriously.
It's like when I went to the PetSmart and they asked me if I wanted to donate to St. Jude's Hospital $1. I said, where's the button where St. Jude's Hospital donates $1 to me? I want to push that button.
Right.
Oh, but they don't have that button. Oh, well, that's rather presumptuous of St. Jude's Hospital. Haven't they never heard of reciprocal burdens?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Why is St. Jude's Hospital asking me for $1? What, you got sick children there or something? Come on now. Sick children. I got a cigarette habit to support.
Oh my goodness.
Give a fuck about your sick children. Give you $1, my ass.
And that's the thing that I cried about in that whole movie. The way back. It was like cancer and children.
And what's in it for me? Can I put these sick children in my video and exploit them in that fashion or what? No? I get nothing?
See, that's the fucked up part. That's the fucked up part.
Not very saint-like of you, Jude. Sounds pretty
like
capitalistic, demanding my money.
There's a famous woman who's like a big like face of that charity. Mary Lou Henner or something.
This
No, I don't know.
is Judy. She has that disease that makes her look super old. She's actually only 4 years old. But she's going to die in just a couple of years at the age of 108 because she ages that fast. Isn't that depressing? Now, give me $10. Like, fuck you, St. Jude's Hospital. Fuck you. I got an idea. How about you lend me those children? I'll exploit them for me getting money. Oh, no, that would be exploitative, Eric. Oh, now the pot's calling the kettle black. So will Judy here not die in 4 years at 108 if I send you $2? Yes, she's still gonna die. Okay, my $2 isn't saving Judy. If you're cool, you'd at least give my $2 to Judy. She's the one who earned it, not you. With your appeal. Just like, be depressed or send me $2. Well, fuck off.
It's like when you can like own donate to a place and you get to have like fucking.
Can you imagine tomorrow? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
It's okay, but like you like adopt a dolphin or like a panda or like some endangered animal.
Mm-hmm. So you gave me a good point. Okay. And tomorrow I'm gonna do a fundraiser. I'm gonna come on and say, "Hello, I am the host of Not Living Damage People. My name is Adele, and I am a victim of retardation. I was fine yesterday, and then I woke up this morning and retarded. Now, I'm going to ask all of you to help me find a cure for my retardation. Please, give as much as you can. Give as much. I'm a real person too, okay? Remember my mom did. I may be the one who's retarded, but you're the one who's being dumb if you don't give me money." So the thing is, if I were to do that, probably people would be offended. But if I were to get an actual retarded kid here sitting next to me and do that, people will be like, "Oh, let me give you some money."
They would.
Right?
Yeah. You know it. It is funny. I'm laughing.
And the point is, I don't like ads that try to exploit my emotion.
Your emotion.
The ads with the dogs being mistreated. Oh,
fuck you!
Don't show me even 1 second of that.
want to see them in their
I don't even want to see 1 second of that.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it's too sad to see.
And, oh my gosh, it's just like the kids in Africa with the flies on their face.
That's fine. Listen.
I don't like that.
But listen, Rachel, listen. I want to tell you something. Shh. Don't mention that too much because I got a business plan. My business plan, I'm going to make a lot of money on this. I'm going to introduce fly swatter technology to the continent of Africa. I'm going to make an absolute killing. It's pretty clear if you see the videos, they don't currently have fly swatters. So I'm going to open a fly swatter factory. I'm going to go to where all those children are with all the flies on them. And I'm going to say, "You don't want to spend that money on food, youngster. What you need is a fly swatter." And that's how I can turn somebody else's misfortune into my profit. Who wants to invest?
That's a good one.
It's a good charity, though.
That's
you know, we just use the same charity footage from all the other ones where the Africans all have flies over them. Except all we do is we say, "Today in Africa," or here suffers from at least 7 flies on him at any given moment. We cannot live ourselves in a world with plentiful fly swatters while these poor people have none. With just $20 a month, you too can bring fly swatter technology to the continent of Africa. What will the fly swatters be made from? Pure recycled materials. Okay, so it's earth friendly. We just ignore the fact that they get flown over and shipped on planes. We won't mention that in the ad. You know?
No.
We use entirely recycled materials and fair trade labor to build our fly swatters right here in Africa using these remarkably fly-free African children. No, you can't donate a fly swatter. You have to give us money because we're only providing them with wholly biodegradable and recycled fly swatters. Of course, they work terribly. They're terrible fly swatters. They break all the time. They fall apart when they get wet.
No, come on,
but hey, but they're green. They're green. Okay, they're green. They don't harm the environment.
I don't want to be wrapped up in that stuff.
Because
Okay, because I was thinking that you weren't going to be going that way. Solve their problem with the fly swatters.
Look, Winston's mom's got a point. We're not going to sell fly swatters in Africa unless we have a good African name for the product.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm going to go, let's see, let's just start off with, let's say, the step, but spelled STEPPE, to freedom from flies. Okay, well, it's a start. It's a start. Okay, let's see. What What's the okay? Serengeti, too many flies on you? Not anymore. How about fly away and be free? How about fundraising film producer repulsing device? Let's say you are an African village and you are super tired of fat Americans coming over and filming you with flies on you. But because you have so many flies on you all the time, you're a natural stop for any photo expedition there that wants to get pictures of Africans with flies on them. So
I'm getting that.
that's a possible market too. They're like, okay, we've got to stop these people. They keep coming around here and filming us. It's ridiculous. We appear in these ads. We're perfectly healthy and rich, but they make us look like we're starving. And it's all because we have flies on us. So let's just go ahead and buy some of Eric's fly spotters. And then the next time they come, they'll be like, where are all the flies? And they'll go some other village to film. You think Peter will object to the fly spotting business? Possibly. It is the case that when I make my advertising video for fly swatters for Africa, I'm not going to end it by saying no flies were harmed in the making of this video. As long as I don't make the claim, I shouldn't get into any trouble.
Nice long shade.
Okay, also possibly, like maybe its slogan could be black is beautiful.
What?
Your black skin is beautiful, and no bit of it should fly away.
Oh my god, that's so good.
You know, it's like don't let your African beauty be fouled by things that are the same color but are not you.
You know what I like about this product the most?
What?
Is that it's so 2020. You know, it's taking that like retro action like commercial of those flies and the Africans and like actually helping them.
You know what else would be a good business model? There are a lot of warlords in Africa. We could go over there and sell automatic weapons to them. There's got to be some profit there, right? So a lot of warlords want to take over places, but how are they going to do it without sufficient automatic weapons? I don't think there are very many good gun merchants in the region. No. That seems like it's like a gold mine waiting to happen. Who's got several cases of automatic weapons that we can sell to warlords in Africa? Anybody? We will have to accept blood diamonds as payments. I'm assuming nobody has a problem with that. No? Good. Cool. We might have to deal with the Chinese a bit. They're kind of taking over the place.
Will Blood Diamond, the DVD, also work?
It might. Listen, if we have to kill any Chinese people while in Africa, we'll blame it on India. There's already a lot of tension there. So I want everybody who comes along on this expedition to dress up as an Indian person, dot, not feather, and practice your Indian accent. If you need a model, look at Encino Man. I want you to practice the Indian guy saying, no, wheezing on the juice. Okay? That'll help you get the accent down. Who's in? Remember, there's a code of silence. Okay? Don't talk about this. No, this is Fly Swatter Club. First rule of Fly Swatter Club is don't talk about Fly Swatter Club. Yes, black flies matter. They are the reason we have such a burgeoning marketplace in Africa. They matter, but that doesn't mean we like them, right?
Oh my god!
You know. So black flies matter more than black lives. I'm sorry, black lives matter more than black flies is a good motto for our African fly swatters as well. It both celebrates the ontology of the person who's using the product and distinguishes them from the thing that they're killing. Black fly swatter. Black fly swatter is the thing. I mean, you could sell that product right now in America. I swear you could.
Yes,
that is genius, Darren Seabridge.
You get so much money.
The first person to put that on the market will make a killing selling a shit ton of them.
Yeah.
That is a really, really good idea. If anybody around here has actual TE and shit, then make that fly swatter right now. TESE. All you got to do is find a place that prints things on fly swatters, or find a place that sells a bulk of fly swatters, and then find a place that prints shit and have them print them on the fly swatters. You would sell those things in a heartbeat.
Seriously, I agree. I'm not gone. I definitely do feel good though.
Yeah, you actually look stoned for a change.
No, but I'm not, because it's my makeup. But from rubbing it in the shower. I promise you.
Okay.
I couldn't even get it off. That's why my eyes look like this.
No, with his mom, black flies swatter. It's the perfect. It's the perfect thing. I mean, it's like I want to do it right now. I just want to just go and somehow like order a bunch of fly swatters and like find somebody who prints shit on fly swatters and sell them for $12 a piece or something, and buy them for like $1 a piece.
Sure, my eyes are stony. I didn't make an excuse.
Well, Jeep Geek.
But really, my eyes sensitive to makeup.
You know what excuses do, don't you, Jeep Geek? They excuse a person.
I used to
Buy home Rometown Happer. Swatter, but it's pronounced swatter. I mean swatter.
Swatter.
Right. It's a black fly swatter.
It's a black fly swatter. Aww.
The thing is, here's the deal about black fly swatter. You got to do it. You got to get it a substantial amount of them, and get it on sale and out there, and get news of it spread fast. As long as you're the only one who's selling them, you'll be able to sell them for like $20 a piece. And then within a few weeks, people will be competing against you, and you'll no longer have the advantage. But you can make a killing in that first few weeks. Really could. So anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. It seems like a good time.
I'm gonna go to bed.
Coolio. Well, they don't have a lot of money, but they do have enough money for something as cool as black fly swatter.
That's great.
Okay, so
someone take that, run with it, and get paid.
Good night, sweetheart. It's time to go. Boo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. We love you all.
We do.